Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Switch Statement Podcast. It's a podcast for investigations into miscellaneous tech topics.
This is our 13th episode on Elon Musk by Walter Isaacson. We'd love to hear from you. Send your comments and feedback to team@thhkp.co.
Hey, John. What's going on?
Hello, Matt. I'm doing really well. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I don't like, hey, John, what's going on? Because it just sounds a little bit too...
Should we change that? I remember so my cousin listens to the podcast, and I remember when we were talking about the podcast with him, he brought that up. He was like, the way you guys greet each other sounds really weird. Not without realizing that this is like literally how we greet each other in real life.
I did not even really understand what his criticism was. John's cousin, write in and more clearly specify your gripes with our intro. So we're talking about money. It's a gas.
Yeah, dude. I'm trying to think of another line from that song, but I can't. But Musk became absurdly rich. I'm sure most people know he was the richest person on Earth for quite a while. Is he still the richest person on Earth? Actually, it's funny that we're talking about this now. And what we're actually...
It's kind of newsy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the stockholders just approved a $1 trillion pay package.
$1 trillion pay package. I mean, come on.
Which, this is actually very interesting to me because we read a case. There's a case called Tornetta v. Musk where he was approved to receive a $55 billion pay package in, I want to say maybe it's 2019. And they sued him because they basically alleged this pay package is so extremely gigantic that it's actually harmful to the company. And it was a problem that it was ever approved. Because basically they were alleging that Elon Musk was on both sides of the transaction. And so it was a conflict of interest. Yeah. And basically the people approving it were just coordinating with Elon as opposed to negotiating with him.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's what's happening now.
But now they're in Texas, I think, and there's no law, and now they're talking about $1 trillion. And now I don't know the details of this. I mean, if I'm steel manning the pay package, in order to achieve that $55 billion, he needed to increase the value of Tesla by way more than $55 billion.
Yeah. Is there a similar stipulation with this pay package?
I would assume so. I mean, if I'm just assuming the stance of Elon Musk, he wants to do the highest risk, highest reward, kind of like, okay, if I achieve fantastically beyond anyone's wildest imaginations, I will become fantastically wealthy.
Right. Right. Yeah, which, I mean, I guess to a certain extent, if he's truly, truly bringing a tremendous amount of value to Tesla, then maybe it makes sense. But my gut reaction on this is like, the most valuable company in the world today is $5 trillion, although I think they just fell, NVIDIA just fell below $5 trillion recently. But there's no way you're not hamstringing your company by demanding a pay package that's 1/5 the size of the largest company on Earth, especially when Tesla does not have the revenue at all to support this. The fundamentals of Tesla are ridiculously, I guess, hilarious when you look at their stock valuation. Like there's just no connection whatsoever to their valuation and their fundamentals as a business.
It is interesting because I don't think it's, they're not giving Elon $1 trillion in cash. But the question is, like, to what extent is this diluting the shares? Because the way that they're going to do that is they're just going to increase the pool of shares. And so if I'm a Tesla shareholder, all my shares are just like reduced in value by however many additional shares they issue. So
yeah. No, I mean, this is my point. Like I realize even if they're paying him out of profits or whatever, and I'm sure there's some sort of arrangement where, he has to increase revenue 30-fold or something in order for this to actually materialize. But even if that's the case, it's a large enough amount of money where there's just no way it's not hamstringing the business in some way or hurting the shareholder in some way.
It is pretty weird. And this is exactly to your point is if you look at the financials of the company, like, there's no way you're getting $1 trillion out of it. But actually, you have this very high leverage thing, which you could just like pull a rabbit out of this, out of this hat of the shareholders.
It's funny you use that terminology because
why is that?
Well, because, and I don't know if we want to get back to talking about the chapter, but there is a point in this chapter where Musk sort of has this like Hurt Locker moment where he's like, my entire life is just frenetic, nonstop, like breakneck building companies and squeezing as much money as I can out of them. And he refers to it as an endless stream of rabbits flying out of hats. Like, people are just constantly demanding like these ridiculous tasks from him, and he just keeps, delivering. This is like in his own interpretation of the world.
Yeah.
And maybe this is just the latest in, this $1 trillion pay package is just the latest in that sort of saga.
I did think it was interesting. So he gets into a debate with Elizabeth Warren about taxes. And it is useful because, I mean, generally speaking, I would believe what Elizabeth Warren is saying just because I'm more on the kind of the left of center generally. But, he paid $11 billion in taxes. And he's like, why? I paid more taxes than anyone else in the history of the United States for one single year. So I think he kind of bristles at the fact that he's not paying enough.
Yeah, which I don't know. It's weird. I actually kind of agree with both people in this scenario. Like, it's so obvious that rich people have a trillion ways of avoiding paying taxes and ways that are not accessible at all to someone who doesn't have the means. And it's unfair. It's just, just the way, there's no debate in my mind. Like, the way our money works is completely unfair. Rich people have all these ways of getting way, way richer, and poor people don't have any of that. And I think that's partially what Elizabeth Warren is referring to. Yeah. Is like, generally speaking, rich people are, getting around capital gains tax, which is like, I would argue that capital gains is like a relatively chill tax on people who are fabulously wealthy.
Yeah, I mean, especially long-term capital gains, like.
Exactly, especially given that you can reset your cost basis if you're like handing this stuff down to your children after you're dead. Like, there's just all these rules that basically are there for rich people. Like, poor people are just never invoking these rules. The rules only exist for rich people, and they benefit rich people. And I think that's what Elizabeth Warren is referring to. But I also think, there's something to be said about Elon Musk paying $11 billion in tax. That's a real thing that happened. It's the largest tax bill ever.
I think the question is it's about the denominator. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's $11 billion, but that would be equivalent to someone paying, like, of more modest means, paying a normal amount of tax. It's like that number is big because you have so much other money. And like, then exactly. It's just important to like keep in mind that it's like, well, you could not have acquired that money without the system, without the government, like enabling you to, I mean, in Musk's case, very directly because he's getting SpaceX contracts with NASA and what have you. I think there's kind of this view, and I don't know, at the risk of sounding like too leftist or whatever, it's like, there's this view where it's like, I earned this money, so I'm entitled to 100% of it.
Yeah.
And then that just like, it just sticks your head in the sand, and it ignores the fact that in order to earn any of this, like, you needed a functioning society. And I'm not saying like the government is a really efficient way to do things, but you do need them to do some of the things, and it costs money.
That doesn't sound leftist to me. I mean, maybe because I am a leftist, but yeah, it's like all of these accomplishments are built upon the infrastructure that the government has put in place. So
right. So
like,
I don't know.
Everyone should be paying their fair share in taxes, and rich people should not have all of these exemptions.
Right. And like, ignoring the context of the fact that you're worth $650 billion when you're bemoaning an $11 billion tax bill.
It's ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous. There was two other things that I thought were funny about this chapter. One, and this has been a thread throughout this book, but Elon Musk is obsessed with Polytopia.
Yeah.
The mobile strategy game. It's like a 4X strategy game. And I just find that so funny because I've played Polytopia. It's a fun game. I have spent many hours playing Polytopia. But this dude is just absolutely obsessed. And he makes all these absurd claims like, oh, Polytopia is a better game than chess. Just these utterly ridiculous comparisons. And I just find that very funny. I think.
Did you say you have played Polytopia?
Oh yeah, I'm the Bardor. That's my favorite species, Bardor.
I should play it. It's free to play, right?
It's free to play. Just get docs. Research the technology that allows you to generate money from docs and just build 1 trillion docs. That's all you got to do. I would beat Elon Musk every time.
Dock like a boat dock?
Yeah, dock like a boat dock.
And it's something you play against someone?
Yeah. It's basically Civ. Have you ever played a Civ game?
Yeah, I'm aware.
It's like a very distilled version of Civ, which in a way I love. Like Civ has gotten kind of bloated over the years, so it's nice to just have like the very rudiments of Civ just like shining through in like this relatively simple, easy to play game, easy to pick up.
Dude, one big up and comer that I'm really excited about is Godland. I can't wait for them to actually to release. You remember Godland was our game.
Oh. Wait. Can you refresh? I'm old now and my memory's not so good. Can you refresh my memory about what? Oh, I know what Godland is. We recorded that video.
So this was, this is a deep cut. This is from several books ago. This is from Art of Game Design.
Yes.
It was kind of like if you start from tic-tac-toe, you make the board a little bit larger. I think it was 4x4.
Yeah.
And you need to control, I think, more than 50% of the tiles.
Yes.
And like one was water and one was fire. But then there were also there were neutral tiles too. I think there was like grass or something. I don't know.
Yeah, dude. I actually think this game. I mean, there was a there, but I don't think we ever found the there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it had a concept where like gods would exist on the side of the board, and they would like exert their influence, and the influence would like cascade across the board over time.
Yeah, maybe we get back to that,
dude. I mean, definitely could. It was fun. But yeah, to close this chapter off, Elon is so obsessed with working that he abandoned his family on Thanksgiving to deal with quote unquote raptor issues. I'm pretty sure he just went to the office and had some, big glass of bourbon and just cried. This is who Elon has become. He's a guy who abandons his family on Thanksgiving, for unclear, ill-defined raptor issues.
One thing that's interesting in this chapter, this is the start of the time period where Walter Isaacson is starting to become a character in this book.
Yeah, I love this.
So I thought, that is interesting.
Walter Isaacson has a very awesome way of injecting his own opinions and biases, but in like a very sort of, it's like you don't even realize it. Like he'll just every once in a while like interpose himself. Like he's done it with Elon Musk's father, where he just sort of like, it's hard to even explain. He'll give a little vignette about Elon Musk's father, and then he'll just have some statement at the end that's like him editorializing, and it just like utterly eviscerates Elon Musk's father, because it's clear that Isaacson has a very low opinion of Errol.
Right.
And I sort of love it. Like I don't know. It's like 99% of the book is this like utterly unbiased narrator.
Right.
But then there's just these like moments of like this biting criticism that I just think works really well.
Well, the sentence that I think you're thinking of, and I wrote this too. I said, starting to get more of Walter Isaacson's point of view. Going back to your earlier point about this raptor emergency, he said it was a crisis that mainly existed in his mind.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
It feels very even-handed. most of the time. Or maybe even hint is not even the right term. It's just neutral. It's not espousing an opinion. And then every once in a while, he just sneaks this this little sentence, which tipped his hand a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like irreverent. And actually, it's funny because literally the title of the next chapter is a perfect example of this.
Yeah.
The title of the next chapter is Father of the Year. But what he discusses in this chapter,
so insane. So insane. And I forgot about this until just to reveal to the folks at home how the sausage gets made. We read these chapters like a month ago at least. So I completely forgot about this, but he was the sperm donor to one of his employees who wanted to have a kid. I guess there was no one who was stepping into the role, and why don't I have my boss be my sperm donor?
Yeah. And Grimes, who was his partner at the time, didn't know about this, first of all. Was not informed that Musk was donating his sperm to another woman, and Grimes was pregnant. She was having her own baby during this period where Musk was donating his sperm to Zillis. It is mind-boggling how bizarre and sort of Jerry Springer.
I know.
I don't know if that reference makes sense anymore, but it's just I don't know. It's almost like you can't come up with this stuff. I would not be able to come up with this scenario that utterly strange, but also offensive. And so anyway, going back to Isaacson's sort of humor and the way he criticizes the people in this book, I feel like entitling this chapter "Father of the Year" is a perfect example of how he talks about his subjects.
I don't think we actually gave her a bio. Maybe I diminished her as a person. So this is Siobhan Zillis. And
who is amazing. She's
an
amazing.
AI investor. Yeah, I mean, she sounds like a badass, frankly. And she sounds like a very intelligent person. I mean, this was an intellectual. And this was a well-informed decision that she made. Again, it's this. He was a sperm donor. They didn't have sex, as far as we're aware.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? That's one way to get out of people thinking you're having an affair.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, I didn't even consider that possibility, but I guess that's possible. I mean, she says it's been one of the most meaningful friendships of my life. By far.
I mean, maybe I'm just pessimistic about this sort of thing, but it sounds like they just had an affair, plain and simple. And this is me, I am just stating this as my own personal theory, knowing Musk, knowing his ability to kind of weasel his way around things and just straight up invent his own reality.
Another thing that's kind of suspicious is what we see in this chapter is she was I thought he would be a godfather. But he is really stepping much more into the role of a father, so.
But yeah, Siobhan Zillis is amazing. And it's not to say anything about either of their, well, I think it mainly speaks negatively about Musk's character, but I don't think any of this is an indictment of Siobhan Zillis's character, from her perspective. I guess unless she was having an affair with him, in which case that's bad.
Right.
But anyway, that's my own theory. I just want to say that again. There was nothing in the book that suggested that. It's just when I'm reading this, I'm thinking to myself, so they're fucking. It just sounds pretty straightforward to me, but I am completely inventing this.
Yeah. So we talked about Baby X, the one with the very crazy name, AEX12. As a nickname, they call him X. Now we get Baby Y. And I don't know what the name's not actually Y, but that's just what they call it.
Is it another series of glyphs?
No, but it is a Exa Dark Sidereal. So.
Oh my God, dude. Amazing.
And so I think I'm blaming Grimes on this one. I don't know. I feel like she's just got that vibe where she would name her child Exa Dark Sidereal.
Yeah. The next chapter, we start to get into Elon Musk's politics, which I think if you're living in the world today, you're very familiar with this. Elon Musk like suddenly became a political entity after, for the longest time, Elon Musk was just sort of this like kind of cool CEO, who would occasionally say horrible things like call a Thai cave diver a pedophile for no good reason.
Yeah.
But then he became kind of openly political, and his politics were very sort of conservative, right-leaning. He used to refer to the woke mind virus. He would say people are red-pilled, but I don't even know what red-pilled is, actually. Is red-pilled a good thing?
Well, the red pill is the one where you see the way the world really is from the Matrix.
So he would refer to himself as red-pilled and the woke mind virus as
blue-pilled, I guess.
Blue-pilled. I do want to say, I think some of this, if I'm thinking about Elon Musk's life experience, I can see how this whole woke thing from his perspective was really getting out of hand. Like one specific instance during the pandemic, they asked him to shut down his factories. And from his perspective, he was like, oh, COVID is not that dangerous. Like the death rate is not that high. It mainly kills old people. I'm going to keep my factory open. And he sort of like, he just did not, they asked him to do this. The sheriff asked him to do this, or I don't know if the sheriff was asking him, but he basically told the sheriff like, hey, come arrest me. I'm going to open my factory. And in a way, I actually think that is a somewhat reasonable stance. I don't fully agree with it. I don't know what I would do if I was in his situation, but I can sort of see his side, and there is like a logical framework to it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think this is Musk's fanatical urgency running headlong into liberal caution, I guess. Like, I feel like because on the left, it's like, we don't know anything, so we're just going to be very risk averse and we're going to shut everything down, which I think in some ways that's a defensible position. But I also, but then when it gets in the way of making his cars, of course, Musk is going to rail against that. So, and I think that honestly is, I wonder if COVID had not happened, I don't think Musk would have turned so hard right.
Oh, 100%. I believe that, where this was a huge inciting factor in him realizing, because I think he was realizing like how much power politicians still had over him. I think up until this point, he was basically acting with, without any like political sort of consequences. And this was the first time his factories were shut down, like literally by political decision making. So I think he sort of had this realization, like, I got to get into this or it's going to like negatively affect my bottom line.
Right. And I guess another part of this is just the culture in Silicon Valley is this very unusual. It's kind of a separate thing from a political perspective. It's much more libertarian.
I do think if you're phenomenally rich, it's easy to be a libertarian, because it's an ideology that isn't concerned about the consequences of like being poor and not having potential for upward mobility. So I can totally see how someone who's in that sort of isolated bubble would become more and more libertarian over the years. Now, one libertarian belief I definitely subscribe to is being able to trade horses for handjobs.
Oh, I've never heard of that before.
Sorry, I'm referring to the next part of the chapter where Musk asks a flight attendant for a hand job.
Oh, yeah.
And sorry, I was trying to pivot back to the material.
No, that's good. That's good. I thought this was just like a libertarian rallying cry or something, like horses for hand jobs.
That's what I was worried about. Is like I try to avoid being political on this show because I don't know. I just think it's a dangerous area to wade into. So anyway, back to the chapter. Musk asked a flight attendant to give him a hand job.
Allegedly.
Well, yeah, allegedly. This is yet another story that I just completely believe that this happened. But allegedly, she said that he offered her a horse in return for a hand job. Now, When I read this section, I was like, isn't a horse worth a lot of money? Like, I mean, is this thing like an Arabian stallion or something? Like, I feel like a hand job is.
Yeah.
Well, okay, maybe we can just move on.
There's it's not an even trade. But I mean, for Elon, I mean, I think you have to think in terms of someone's net worth. It's like I trade 0.001% of my net worth for a hand job right now.
Yeah. Well, and I guess like, I don't know, if someone offers me a stallion to go down on them, then maybe, I don't know, maybe I would go for that. But anyway, Musk also became, this is yet another political thing. Musk became angry at Biden. Biden was visiting all these UAW sites, United Auto Workers. He was visiting all these like Ford factory, GM factory or whatever. You know, this is part of the manufacturing base of the United States, which is pathetic, by the way. But he like wasn't visiting Tesla.
Yeah.
This is a point where I actually found myself completely agreeing with Musk. You know, it's like Tesla is the future of American manufacturing. Like, this is a company that has figured out a way to manufacture a tremendous amount of vehicles in the United States and also China. You know, this is a big win for the United States. And I do think Biden should have been showing Tesla a little bit of love, like especially if he's visiting all these other auto factories. And I do think there's a lot of nuance here. Like, as far as I know, there's no union at Tesla factories.
Oh, yeah. No way. No freaking way.
Yeah, and so I think the point of Biden's tour of these UAW sites was because they're UAW sites. There's a union, and this is like an important thing in the American workforce. But in terms of like manufacturing and keeping a healthy manufacturing base, which is something that was important to Biden and is also seems to be important to Trump, you know, you should be visiting places like Tesla because that's kind of the future of manufacturing in the United States.
Yeah, no, this is a tough thing because I do think unions accomplished a lot in terms of like getting working conditions improved and what have you. And it sounds like there are some very real concerns with the safety at Elon's factory. You know, I think there's something to be said for unions, but I also I acknowledge like the potentially negative impacts because I've heard of people on the other side of that where it's like, let's say you're trying to make a movie. If you have to use all union workers, it drives up the cost tremendously. So
yeah. That's an interesting thing. I mean, unions, I'm a believer in unions. I think that every part of a relationship should have an advocate or should be able to advocate for themselves. Like, this is a key thing in relationships. Any human relationship is both sides should be able to properly advocate for themselves and have some amount of authority to enact change. And so to me, unions are kind of a no-brainer, but unions need to be able to coexist with the realities of business. And this is something that you could argue that the auto sector has not done a great job of over the years. And I don't know. This is yet another debate that I'm wary of getting into, but anyway, man, we've really like discussed all the hot button political topics today.
I know. Well, let's do something pretty mild and talk about the war in Ukraine.
So Elon is the hero of Ukraine
for a little while, but yeah, early on, SpaceX and Starlink. We talked about that in an earlier episode, I think, or 2 episodes early back, that Elon started to do Starlink, and now come 2022, it's the start of the Ukraine-Russian war, and Starlink is the only one that can offer stable and unhackable internet to the troops on the ground, and that's what they do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was definitely exaggerating a little bit when I said Elon is the hero of Ukraine, but I do think, and it was mentioned several times in this chapter, that the Ukrainians would not have been able to mount such an effective defense without the ability to coordinate. And that was purely because of Starlink.
Yeah.
So in a weird way, it's not that much of an exaggeration to say that Elon was the hero of the Ukraine war, at least at the outset, like you mentioned, because it did become complex. And there's this event that they bring up where the Ukrainians were attempting to mount an attack on the Russian fleet. I can't remember the name of this body of water.
Black Sea, perhaps?
Yeah, Black Sea. Was that where it was? Where the Russian fleet was sort of hanging out there. And the Ukrainians were literally like, they were doing this attack. And correct my memory if I'm wrong, by the way. But they were like doing this attack against the Russian fleet in the Black Sea. And Elon shut off the internet.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's because Elon didn't want the internet to be used to kill people, basically. Like he didn't want to support sort of a mass casualty event. He was much more willing to support, the Ukrainians being able to communicate with each other for defensive purposes and just for, coordination purposes.
Yeah.
But he was much less willing to support literally a missile that would be like guided by, using the network to like communicate with GPS devices or whatever. He was much less willing to support actual weapons of destruction with the internet, which is it's yet another like really tough issue that he just randomly found himself embroiled in. There's no easy answers.
I think it's commendable because I think it is, if I were in his shoes, I would probably be like, yeah, like Russia is the aggressors, then they get whatever, whatever they bargained for there. Mm-hmm. But I think there is something that's good about, this is more of like a pacifist thing where it's like, because if you could have a perfect shield against these two, which like they did not allow any like rockets through these two countries or what have you. So like you couldn't use it offensively. It would just neutralize any attack. Like that would be ideal. Because it's like, it doesn't matter how hard you try to hurt this other person. It's not going to work. But I'm not going to build something that allows you to stab them. So like, I guess I view it through that lens where it's like, this is closer to this platonic ideal of like, okay, this is the point of this is to be a barrier from someone harming you. It's not supposed to be used as, it's sword versus shield.
I found it to be like a very principled, like moral system, whereas I think a lot of politicians take a much more like utilitarian stance. Yeah. Like I'm thinking about like, Kissinger, for example, who like straight up carpet bombed Laos and Cambodia, countries that weren't even in the Vietnam War. And his whole rationale for doing that was, well, it was because the Viet Cong was running troops through those countries. But his rationale for doing that was he would save more American lives than innocent civilians that he would kill. By the way, he went on to win the Nobel Peace Prize. But the point is, this is like a very, very utilitarian morality in warfare.
But that wasn't true, right? Didn't they kill like hundreds of thousands of...
Yeah, no, it was a complete war crime. And also he destabilized the government of Cambodia, allowing the Khmer Rouge to take power, which is, I mean, you want to talk about heinous governments? Khmer Rouge is one of the worst, most brutal totalitarian regimes to ever exist. They were just straight up torturing people because they wore glasses. So this is what Kissinger enabled in that region because he wanted to, I don't even know, save a few American lives so that Nixon wouldn't look as bad for the upcoming election. So, but anyway, not to get sidetracked by a whole other, political thing, but my whole point is like, I feel like most politicians take this very utilitarian stance. Cheney being another example of this, by the way.
Rest in peace.
But to me, this utilitarian stance is extremely flawed for many, many, many reasons. And I appreciate when someone takes a more principled stance where Elon, his principles were, I want to support peace activities. I want to support de-escalation. And I don't want to support, wartime killing activities or escalating activities.
Right.
And I don't know. I appreciated that in a way, but I do think it's a really hard issue.
Yeah. I don't think there's any good options.
Anyway, let's just move on.
Let's move on. Yeah. So we got Bill Gates. Last chapter. This was a shorty, and it just showed how much of a weirdo Musk is, in my opinion.
Yeah. If you need to lose a boner, just look at Bill Gates wearing a golf shirt.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Man, the look you gave me when I said the word boner was amazing. I wish this was a video podcast.
This is what Musk says. Musk tweets about Gates.
I found this chapter hilarious because it's such a... I feel like Bill Gates and Elon Musk are both these larger-than-life characters. They're both sort of absurd in their own way. They're both obviously filthy rich.
Right.
And this chapter was just a good, like, look at these two different kind of funny, like, comical entities, like, try to interact with each other. They talk about how when they first meet, Gates is surprised that Musk doesn't have someone who schedules his meetings, basically.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a cool thing about Musk. Like, he just does a lot of this stuff on his own and, like, deals with a lot of these things. And Gates obviously has, like, a huge staff that, like, works out all these details for him. Gates has some funny takes on Elon's Mars stuff. Like, he just sort of questions the underlying premise, which I think is another example of Gates being just a super pragmatic person.
Yeah.
And Musk being, like, very idealistic, which I like. I mean, I like both sides. It's like pragmatism is obviously very important if you're trying to get real things done. But there's certain things that you won't even try unless you have that, like, insane idealism that Musk has.
Musk is this perfect combination of idealism, but also, like, basically an infinite capability to deliver on that. Because you have a bunch of idealists out there who are like, I'm going to get to the moon. And, like, you know, they're just digging a hole in their backyard or whatever to launch a rocket that's just going to explode and kill them or whatever. But, like, he actually has the technical know-how to actually make that happen. So, which I also think is awesome. And it looks like it's working. Like, by all accounts, obviously Mars is still ways off. But along the way, Musk has done things that no one thought was going to be possible.
Yeah. No, he's essentially made launching random shit into space very accessible.
Yeah.
Which is insane. It's, like, truly insane if you think about it. Like, this used to be the type of thing that an entire nation had to rally around. And even with that, it costs like $50 trillion. Musk has basically reached a point where it costs like $3,000 in order to get a kilogram of shit into space. And that's truly, truly insane.
And if you look at the roadmap, like, it's only going to get significantly less expensive. Like, they haven't even started to launch starships that use their Raptor 3 engine, which should be a significant improvement in reliability and performance. So it's just wild.
Yeah. I wish SpaceX was a publicly traded company because I would be buying shares.
For sure. Apparently Robinhood now allows you to buy some, like, you just need to go to Lithuania and buy some.
I mean, I'm into speculation, but that's just, I don't know.
Well, you're in this dark gray area. I'm not sure that it's, like, completely illegal, but you're like pretty close to being illegal in that. And yeah, I mean, the last thing that I had was just how aggro Musk was about
the shorting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually love this. I think it's such a testament to, like, the different characters. Like, to Gates, from Gates's point of view, this is just a completely unemotional.
Yeah.
He's looking at the fundamentals of the business, and he's telling his stockbroker, let's short that stock. You know, the underlying fundamentals of the business don't align with the market capitalization. To him, it's just a simple, unemotional choice. To Musk, it's like you are preventing the human race from, like, progressing.
Yeah.
And it's like they're both right in a way. And it's just such a nice sort of contrasting of their two worldviews and approaches to reality.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I think that's all I had. And I know this was a long one. I think there's going to be a lot to cut in this one. Different besmirchings.
Yeah. I don't want, going off the rails about politics. I might have had one too many coffees this morning.
I haven't had any coffee. So, you know.
Wow, dude, I am impressed. You seem very awake.
I do take Vyvanse, which is basically just meth, so that's why I am awake.
Dude, hook it up with that. I want some meth.
Dude, just say you have ADHD and they'll give you some meth.
Dude. Okay, I'm gonna do that.
All right, nice. Well, I look forward to the next episode where you're on meth and coffee. It's gonna be off the rails.
Hell yeah.
All right, well, I will see you next time, John.
See you next time, Matt.